The meeting is now called to order. We do have a quorum up here. All 5 seats are full. So the first order of business is communications from the public. Is there anyone in the public that would like to come and speak before the board? Seeing no one, we'll move to the next item. In order to comply with the provisions of the Open Meetings Act, the board may not deliberate on subjects discussed under this agenda item, but may direct subjects be placed on a later regular agenda for discussion and or possible action. So we're past that. We're now moving into public hearing. Opening the public hearing is now open. First, we will conduct this public hearing, and the city and the petitioner present their cases. We will receive comments from the public. Anyone from the public may be recognized to give a statement either for or against the request. A city representative will offer a history of the original request and why it was denied. Then the petitioner or the petitioner's representative will take the podium and tell us why they think we should approve their request. The public will be asked if they would like to give a statement for or against the request. At this point, the public input will be closed, and only the board members will have the opportunity to ask questions, gather information, and to deliberate and vote on the application. By law, a supermajority vote is required to approve the application. That means we need at least 4 of the 5 votes to approve the application. This is a quasi-judicial proceeding. The city keeps records, including audio and video records of the testimony given. All persons who will be speaking before the board must be sworn in, and we will ask you to speak from the podium each time so that it is recorded, can be heard on the video. If you intend to speak to the board tonight, please stand at this time. Raise your right hand for your oath. Okay, I was about to ask, is anyone going to speak there? Okay, raise your right hand. If you intend to speak to the board tonight, raise your right hand for the oath. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth and the whole truth in your testimony before this board this evening?
Yes.
All right, let me be seated. Thank you. All right. City staff, Brian, would you explain the request?
Absolutely. First and foremost, I would like to apologize on the timing of this. My office erroneously issued a permit of a structure that would encroach the platted 35-foot build line. There's no malicious intent from the applicant. There's just it was an error on my part. I think we would have been here at some point. I do believe that this lot creates some difficulty in building, so there are some hardships that would have probably brought us into this at a pre-construction phase had we caught it at that time. Basically what happened was the permit was submitted. The site plan was laid out exactly the way the house is laid out. At that time, there was also a letter from the Homeowners Association allowing encroachment of the 35-foot build line. I had assumed that that build line was a deed restricted build line, not a platted build line, and since they were granting the permission based on the deed restricted build line, I issued the permit because it did still comply with the city's zoning ordinance of a 25-foot setback. The house was issued the permit, construction commenced. We require a form survey prior to us doing a cover inspection just to ensure that we have met all the setbacks. At that point, the surveyor notified us that it was encroaching the 35-foot build line, and he had no tool or way to, or variance to accommodate for that encroachment from the 35-foot platted build line. At that point, we realized the error. We started discussions with the applicant to bring us to this point and to seek a variance, which I believe will clear up for them at this point. So we're not dealing with this problem every time we do any sort of issuing of a permit or selling of the house. It will grant a tool for cleaning up this error. Again, I apologize on the timing of this, but at this time to bring it into compliance would be of substantial cost greater than 50% of the project. And that is quite an issue for obviously the applicant.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Would the applicant please step forward, state your name, and explain your case?
You want the builder or the homeowner?
Or either one, whoever's gonna take it.
My name is Travis Elam, and I'm the homeowner at 500 North Shadow Bend. So pretty much, I really don't have a whole lot to, add on to what Brian said. The only thing that I would add is that when we originally bought the home, the survey that we were provided showed a 25-foot setback, and it wasn't until later on when we tore the house down that we got the house resurveyed. And you'll have to forgive me, I bought the house in June of 2020, so this goes back a pretty good ways. But the original survey showed a 25-foot setback when we closed on the home in June of 2020. So it was a little shocking when we saw a 35-foot setback. So that's when we got the HOA. We thought that, I hired a local architect here in Friendswood to draw the plans, and they, said, look, you need to get with, the city, you need to get with the HOA, get a letter from the HOA if we're gonna build it to 25 feet. Because if we had to build it to 25 feet or to the 35-foot build line, it goes all the way around my property, and I almost really couldn't have ever built a house there. So, but again, the confusing part to us was that, we had a 25-foot setback in the original survey. When we got it resurveyed, the 35-foot setback showed that the house that I tore down was also over the 35-foot mark. So, I apologize, if I would have known more things to do, maybe, we wouldn't be here, but, we felt like getting a permit, hiring an architect, hiring engineers, and getting all the, we felt like we went through the proper channels. And getting the HOA letter was kind of our last step. I didn't honestly understand the replatting issue, but that's the only thing really I would add to what Brian said. So the original house that we tore down was over the 35-foot build line that we tore down. So that's where we thought that maybe it was an HOA deal, and that's why we got the letter from the HOA board.
Okay. Did your footprint for the new house substantially change from the old house?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty significantly different. I can't remember the exact, like from a square footage standpoint, I don't remember what the original house was versus the one we're doing. But it is quite a bit different.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any comments from the public?
Excuse me, Chair, you might want to see if the applicant has any other people that he'd like to testify, because I believe he said the builder's here as well.
Sure, if you'd like to, yes.
Good evening, Ryan McDaniel, McDaniel Homes. So we're the builder. We submitted for a permit to get everything approved. We were asked to submit a HOA letter that we did. That was our final step that the city needed in order to approve us our building set of plans. We've constructed the home, met all the requirements for what we're required to do, every inspection that we're supposed to have done, every form survey, every aspect of the house build, even keeping a clean job site, it's also required as well. So we've done all those steps. I don't believe the homeowner or anybody has done anything malicious here to create any of this. If there was hurdles to achieve before we started this process, we definitely would have done those as well and probably been in the same boat beforehand, and I believe still cross the same path to get to the same place. So we're here basically asking to hopefully we'll get this thing resolved and all move on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Any questions for us at all, or need to clarify?
Not yet.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any comments from the public for the request? Anybody like to speak for this? Seeing none, would anyone like to speak against this? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Consider item 3 is setback variance for property located at 500 North Shadow Bend. Consider approving a variance to allow the main structure to encroach the 35-foot front and exterior side platted building lines by 7.2 feet on the property located at 500 North Shadow Bend. Are there any comments or questions from the board?
Okay, hey Brian. I do have one question real quick about the platted 35-foot setback. So I understand, I think I understand what's going on here. That was just missed in in the shuffle of the HOA deed restrictions versus what our normal standard setbacks are. What is the process or problem of replatting that to show a 25-foot setback?
So that is a considerably more labor-intensive, costly process. Obviously, at this point, the kind of the issue is we've already crossed that threshold. As the applicant stated, the original home had encroached that build line as well. So would that have been another course of action? Yes. It probably would have been a better course of action at a different time. I don't know that's where we are right now.
Okay, all right.
If they were to go there, would it replat just their lot or the whole subdivision?
They could replat their lot, but like Brian said, it's labor intensive and it's very expensive. And had we given them that option up front, they probably would have chosen to redesign the house instead of replatting to change that build line. So at this stage in the process, so they can have a clear title if they ever sell the house, that's why we're seeking the variance option.
All right.
So it's not that simple.
Okay, anybody got any questions?
I do, Brian. I have a question. So the previous home that sat there was not properly permitted either. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm not aware of the permitting on that original home. Obviously, that house was built, I believe, in the 70s, and how it got the approval at that time, I can't answer. I just know that it was encroaching that 35-foot build line, had been for 40 plus years.
Thank you.
Okay, Brian, I know there's some homes around there that were built before the city was incorporated. This home was built after that?
To be honest, I'm not aware of when that house that was torn down was built. I was involved in the process of trying to go through the demolition process, but as far as when that house was built, I can't answer that.
All right, anyone else got any questions? No? Okay, is there a motion for a vote?
I'll make that.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
All right.
And just to clarify, that motion would include that all the prerequisites have been met, that you've got the conditions before you, that you've gone through, and all those
Okay, I
those
guess we
conditions
should
met.
go through all these together.
Okay,
then?
we'll do that. We'll go through these. Okay. Going through the worksheet. The grant of the variance will not be contrary to the public interest. Yes or no?
No.
No? Okay. No down there? No. No? Okay.
Chair, what you could do, if everybody agrees that they're met, then you don't have to go through each one, so,
Okay, so we
Okay.
can look at it?
Yeah,
and
look
just
at it.
verbally say that?
yes.
Okay. All right. Then we get past there, we get to the financial cost of compliance. We're looking under possible hardships. The financial cost of compliance is greater than 50% of the appraised value of the structure as shown on the most recent certified appraisal roll. That would be a yes. Okay, is everybody reading through these? Do I need to read them out loud, or y'all want to go through? Oh. Okay,
I will say I agree to all of mine.
okay.
I concur, I agree.
I agree as well.
All right, I agree too. Okay,
Should we go ahead and make a motion then? May I do that?
Let's do that,
yes.
yes. Let's go ahead and do that.
Call
yeah.
for a motion.
All right. You're
No,
calling for it?
I'm calling if anyone has a motion.
I'll make the motion to move forward with approving this request, and that we've gone through this form, and everybody has agreed that we can move forward.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right. Okay, at this time, all board members wishing to approve the application and grant the variance as stated for this agenda item, please signal by raising your right hand and stating aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. The vote is 4, and the request is approved. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Has everybody seen the minutes, and does anyone have any changes to the meetings? Any corrections to the meetings of the January 25th meeting? If there are no corrections, is there a motion for approval?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of January 22nd meeting.
I'll second that. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, and moving on to the next item is training. And to receive training regarding procedures and responsibilities of the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Karen is
Karen.
taking care of that.
Great. Good evening, board members. I just wanted to give us a quick refresher of some laws and different things that govern your meetings. It's just to remind you of different things that go on. There's been some changes in laws maybe since the last time you've seen the presentation, so I don't know if I can do anything. Is it on? I got the green button. Oh, okay. All right, well, yeah, that'd be great.
There we go.
Here we go. Just nod at me. Okay, I'll nod. I'll give you a little point. Okay, just quickly, we're going to talk a
Just
little
click
bit.
at her.
We're going to talk about open government, specifically in open government. We're going to talk quickly about open meetings, public information, as well as conflicts of interest, and then going through just some procedures and some duties that you have as a member of the board. So first, open government, it's designed, or sunshine laws is a lot of times what you hear about. And so it's open meetings. You want to be transparent so that the people know the workings of their government and what they're doing. So first we're going to talk about open meetings. So when does open meetings apply? It applies when a quorum is gathered to discuss public business, or when you're gathered and you receive public business. So if it's like a staff meeting, it's the old staff meeting requirement. So you can sit there, and if you're receiving public business or anything over which you have jurisdiction, we need to be careful and we need to vote. We need to post those meetings and make sure that the public is aware of what's going on. In posting, we have to post 72 hours beforehand. We have to post it in different locations. We post it on the internet. And we also have to be fairly specific about what we post. We can't just post old business, new business, and things like that. We have to actually give the public notice about the subjects that are coming before the board. Okay, so when are meetings not subject to the act? Those would be purely social events, or when you're going maybe to a training session, or when you're testifying before a legislature. And all those are if and only if the discussion of public business is merely incidental to your attendance at that event. Okay, And if an item comes up on your agenda, what can you do if it's not on your agenda and an item comes up at a meeting? So there's 3 different things you could do. You can respond with just information about the general policy of the board, or you can refer them to staff, or you can decide to put something on your next meeting agenda. But beyond that, you're not to be able to go in, because as you recall, the sunshine laws, we want to make sure everybody's aware of what we're doing. And so if you start on a topic that wasn't publicly noticed, someone that might have been interested in that topic would have been here or wanted to speak or something of that nature, and they didn't have the opportunity to do so. So next is public information. Just a quick slide on that. Just to remind you that what you create and what we have here is public information. So when you're discussing board business, that's public knowledge. So your board agendas, your orders that you sign, and different things of that would be public information. Also, emails that we send to you or you send back to us are public information. So if we receive a public information request, that would be also something that we would need to produce at that time. We comply with the records retention policy, so we don't have to keep all records forever. And a lot of times your emails are kept by staff, and so you don't need to keep them, and you can delete them as long as they're no longer administratively valuable to you. So just something to be aware of. So conflicts of interest is also something just to make note of. If something comes before the board and you have a substantial interest either in a business entity or in a real property, you're supposed to not vote on the matter. You have to refrain from any further discussion. So it's not only you, but it's also a person related to you within the first degree or second degree, first degree of consanguinity or affinity. So that would be consanguinity is by blood, affinity by marriage. So that would be your parents or your sons and daughters, or it'd be your in-laws or your daughters-in-laws and a spouse. So if any of those have an interest in a company or in the real property, you would have to refrain. You'd have to file an affidavit. Becky has those affidavits, so just let her know if you ever do have an interest. And those interests are very low. It's like 10% of the voting stock of a corporation, 10% of the fair market value of a corporation. If you receive your income, 10% or more of your income from that corporation, you would have to say you have a substantial interest in that company if your vote on that action would have a different economic effect than the public at large, on that company than the public at large. Similarly, also $15,000, if you own $15,000 in a corporation, that would also be a substantial interest. As far as real property, that threshold's even lower. It's $2,500. If you have a legal or equitable interest in property of $2,500 or more, you would have to say you have a conflict, and you would have to fill out an affidavit and refrain from any further participation. That affidavit needs to be filled out before the meeting or before the vote or anything on the matter before it comes up for discussion. And there are exceptions. One exception to that rule is that everybody has the same conflict, then everybody can vote. I'm not sure what that means. That seems kind of counterintuitive, but that is it. So quickly on procedures, I just wanted to go over some of your procedures and your rules. You talk about 4 different instruments that you have. We talked about these before, that they're all public information. That would be your official notice that we publish about your meetings, also the agenda that we publish, the orders that are signed after you make decisions, and also your minutes. And all those are publicly available, and they are available pursuant to a Public Information Act, and some of the information, of course, the agendas and things are posted online, so people can have access to that readily. There are 3 main functions of the board. There's a variance like we had tonight. There's a appeal or a special exception. So variances are when you need to vary some sort of property development standard of the zoning ordinance, like a setback like we had tonight. An appeal, and that's all I've seen us have so far since I've been here. An appeal would be if someone appeals a decision of an administrative official. They don't like the decision the easy for me to say, administrative official concluded. They don't like that decision. They could come and have some recourse with you. And then the last one would be some sort of special exception. And those would be some deviations to some sort of operational performance standards, maybe a light or glare standard or something like that we have in the code. And then the process would be just like you had tonight. So you opened your meeting, you explained the rules, you administered oath, you called on city staff to present their evidence, you called on the petitioner to present their evidence, and then you close the meeting. After that, you have a motion, and you just make discussions about what happened. You go through each of your criteria to make sure that they're met, and then you can either affirm the decision, deny the decision, or you can modify the decision. And that instrument, we actually have an order that we have to file with the board's records. And the chairman signs off on that after each meeting. So we have that, he'll sign off on that, and then it goes into the board's records. And then my last slide, again, I think I went over this. They can reverse, affirm, or modify, and you can't consider an application for a variance, special exception, or an appeal which has been denied within 1 year. That's in your rules. So if something's come before you and they've already asked for you once, it's like a kid. They can't just keep on coming back and asking over and over again, unless there's been a significant change, and then they can. And then just some quick takeaways to conclude. Just do attend meetings. Let's stick to the agenda. Consider only the evidence that you have. Consider all the different factors that you have. And make sure you file a conflict of interest affidavit if there is a conflict. If you have any questions about that, you can always ask. The don'ts is don't reply to all. If you get an email from someone, don't reply to everyone, because there's something called a walking quorum, which is a violation of the Open Meetings Act, so we need to be careful of that. A lot of times you'll get emails, I know, and you'll be blind CC'd, so you can't reply to all. But in case you're not blind CC'd, don't reply to all. Don't visit about BOA business outside a posted meeting, because that could be a violation, again, of the Open Meetings Act. There was a decision way back in the 80s where there's a three-member board, 2 females and a male. They broke for a quick recess, and the 2 females went into the restroom, and they discussed public business, and they came out and they voted, and it was totally different than what they thought was going to happen, because of the discussion that happened in the restroom that the public didn't have access to. So anyway, that's a little tidbit on that. But also, don't visit with the applicant regarding any matter that's coming up before the board. Don't do any ex parte type conversations there. And don't try to gather any evidence of the board. It's our responsibility to come to present you the evidence. It's also the applicant's responsibility to come and present you the evidence. You sit as a quasi-judicial board, and so your decisions you sit like a court. And the court doesn't go out and gather evidence beforehand. They wait and make sure that things are presented to you. You can ask questions and things like that as you've done, but it needs to be presented to you at a meeting. As a quasi-judicial board, your decisions also are not subject to approval by council. That doesn't go to council. If anybody has a concern or wants to overturn your decision, they would have to go directly to court. So that's all I have. So if you have any questions for me, you can ask them now, or feel free to give me a call anytime. I'm glad to assist in any way, and I'm thankful to be able to serve with you all.
Well, I have a question for you.
All right.
What are we supposed to do as far as our due diligence?
You come and sit like a judge. You don't have to run out and do anything. You come here and we are to present you the evidence, and you're supposed to listen to the evidence that's presented to you, either in written form or oral form, and that's what you make your decisions on.
Okay, a prior board member told me that it was the best thing to do was when you saw something and to go look at it, so you had an understanding of what the drawing was in the packet that you're giving. Is that
No,
outside this scope?
that would be outside the scope. You need to
Okay.
just listen to what's presented here, look at the evidence that's presented. You can ask questions about a drawing or anything, or any of the evidence that's presented, but you need to just listen to the evidence that's presented to you. Just like a judge would. They don't go out and run around and try to do any due diligence before. They listen to the evidence that's presented to them. They can only consider that evidence when they make a decision.
To run on his question here, because sometimes I guess we worry about if we have the latest pictures or the latest whatever, about the property. But I guess the city then takes that upon themselves to make sure that we're getting that. We don't need to concern ourselves with that.
That's correct. We'll present the evidence, and also the applicant can present different pictures if they have any other pictures that they would like to present. So all those could be presented to you at the hearing.
Anyone else?
Well, if you think of anything later, please don't ever hesitate to give me a call or drop by or anything. I'd be glad to help in any way. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is reports. Receive comments from members of the staff, board, and/or board liaison. Council liaison, Steve, you have anything to say?
Actually, I have a question for Karen, basis your discussion. If they didn't feel they had enough information, like you said, pictures or whatever, they can table an item and request the staff bring in other information. Is that correct?
They can postpone the hearing or postpone the vote and come back. Yes, that's correct.
So if you ever had a time where you can't resolve that whatever information was given to you wasn't enough for you to make a credible decision, you can table and ask for more information, and then you'd have to re-meet. That's all I had. Thank
Okay.
you.
And so Karen, is there anything that we take into the impact on the complainant about any of this?
Well, the burden
if
of
we-
proof is Becky just reminded me, the burden of proof is on the applicant to present the information. So the burden of proof is on the applicant. If they don't, provide the information, you can make a decision, or you can, like a court would, continue it for additional information. But the burden of proof is with the applicant.
Would it, if we were uncomfortable with it, would it be appropriate to ask the applicant to bring more information to us, or is that totally on him or them?
That would be up to the board, whether they wanted to suspend and for a specific period of time in order to allow them to bring additional evidence.
Okay, so would we have to agree as a board then to say, hey, we want to take a vote if we should postpone this for a month and get them to bring back a whole set of pictures with a drawing from XYZ? Do we have to agree at that level, or can he, as the chair, make that decision for us?
No, it would have to be a board decision.
Okay. And can we then decide on a time to meet, or do we have to wait for the next scheduled meeting, or the next, where the slot we're set in the city schedule?
So you can call a special meeting, so there
Okay.
can be a special meeting for that.
Mm-hmm.
But it would have to be later than what the
It'd have to be
public has
72
to know.
hours. Yeah, so it'd have to be
Yeah.
more than
Mhm.
72 hours.
Okay.
So you have to repost the
Mm-hmm.
meeting notice.
Okay. Joe, you have anything?
Always make people come up and talk instead of talking from the back. So I will just come up here to say, no, I have nothing for you tonight unless you have any questions of me.
Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Staff, Brian, Becky?
We do have a opening on the Zoning Board of Adjustment. So just to let the public know, if anybody would like to volunteer, we are always taking applications as we, lose volunteers. We're welcome new ones. So if anybody is interested, or if y'all know anybody that would be interested, we do have a spot, and maybe one or two more coming open. We're waiting to see on those.
Okay. So we got our marching orders there. We need to find new members. Now,
If you find somebody that might be interested, they do have to fill out the
yes,
volunteer form at the city.
go through the procedure. Yeah, inform them. Okay, so that. Next is adjournment. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
A second? I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned.